Hello everyone, welcome to Pharma Thoughts. Episode 12, Validation Master Plan. Validation Master Plan is one of the key documents for any company that is working under GMP environment. Generally, not many people are usually involved in the preparation of this document in any company. Hence, I thought it would be useful to discuss this document so that more people can know about it. So, let's begin the episode. Agenda for today's presentation. First, we will try to understand why a validation master plan is required. And then we will see what is a validation master plan and what are the contents of a validation master plan. And finally, we will see how to manage the validation master plan in real time. So let's start. The first question, why validation master plan is required? And what are the regulatory authorities' expectations regarding a validation master plan? Below, I have referred a guidance and a regulation. That is, the guidance is ICH Q7, which we know is a GMP guide for APIs, and the regulation is 21 CFR Part 211. We know 21 CFR Part 210 and 211 are CGMP regulations for finished pharmaceuticals. My intention is to review the requirements for both APIs and finished dosages. So let's see the API requirements first. ICH Q7, the GMP guide for APIs, under section 12.1 validation policy, it states that the company's overall policy, intentions and approach to validation, including the validation of production processes, cleaning procedures, analytical methods, in-process control test procedures, computerized systems and persons responsible for design, review, approval and documentation of each validation phase should be documented. So to put it in a simple way, this is what validation master plan contains, and as per the ICH Q7, the requirement is that the company shall establish and maintain a validation master plan. It is as simple as that. So the requirement is pretty clear here. As per ICH Q7, a company shall establish a validation master plan and it shall be maintained. And coming to the requirements for finished dosages, when it comes to the CGMP regulations like 21 CFR Part 210 and 211, they do not explicitly say that a validation master plan is required. However, validation is required in both general and specific terms as mentioned in 21 CFR Part 210 and 211. When we go through the different subsections mentioned here, such as 21 CFR Part 211.100A, 211.110A, 211.160B, 211.165A, 211.165C, etc., it is clear that the processes, equipments, methods that are used in the manufacturing are required to be validated and maintained in a consistent manner. Though it does not clearly say that a validation master plan is required, it is always a better practice to have a validation master plan to show to the regulatory authorities that we intend to comply with all those regulations that are mentioned here. So with respect to APIs and with respect to finished formulations, we are clear that the validation master plan is required because of these requirements. And here I have provided a reference to two specific guidance documents released by WHO and PICS. World Health Organization or WHO normally releases its guidance documents in the form of technical report series, or normally called as TRS. And in one of the technical reports, that is TRS 1019, it has clearly given the requirements for validation master plan. We can find these requirements under Annex 3, Good Manufacturing Practices, Guidelines on Validation. Here we can see the exact requirements on how validation master plan shall be prepared. And we will see those comments in the coming slides. And another organization named Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme, popularly known as PICS, also released a detailed guidance on validation master plan on 25 September 2007. This guidance also can be referred for more information. And before we go further and know what is a validation master plan, I would like you to know something about a term called validated state. Once we understand the term validated state, then it will be easy for us to understand the requirements and contents of a validation master plan. So let's see that. As usual, let me Google and see about the validated state first. So here I am typing, this is a Google page, and I am typing about validated state. The first page I got hit is www.fda.gov. We know this web page belongs to US FDA website. So let me open this page, and immediately after this page we see the process validation section of a regulation 21 CFR 820.75. So this is a lengthy page, so let me directly go to the point, and this is the paragraph that I'm interested in. Let me read out this paragraph. Review and evaluation of process changes and deviation should be documented to show whether revalidation is necessary, and if not, why not. It is important to remember that the manufacturer needs to maintain a validated state. Any change to the process, including changes in procedures, equipment, personnel, etc., need to be evaluated to determine the extent of revalidation necessary to assure the manufacturer that they still have a validated process. So from this regulation 21 CFR 820.75, it is clear that the manufacturer is responsible to maintain the processes and systems in a validated state. But what is a validated state? What are the elements that contribute to a validated state? Let's see. So from the FDA page, we know that it is manufacturer responsibility to maintain a system or process in a validated state. But how to achieve this? What elements may contribute for maintaining the process or system in a validated state? Let us do a bit of reverse engineering. If you are familiar with the root cause analysis or investigations carried out in our industry, you might be aware that any problem that occurs can be attributed to 6 M's. Those are man, machine, material, measurement, method, and mother nature or environment. If there is a problem, it can be in one of these or it can be in multiple of these. When all these areas are controlled and are functioning properly, then problems are not expected normally. Hence, we will begin with the first element, man. Man here means the personnel. Any person, he or she, who is working under a GMP environment shall be qualified. Only qualified personnel shall perform the GMP activities, and personnel can be considered qualified either by education, training, or experience. However, it is a manufacturer's responsibility to define how they ensure that the personnel are qualified before handling any job. Unqualified personnel cannot do the job properly and may disrupt the validated state. So similarly, the second element is machine. All the equipments that are used for manufacturing or testing shall be appropriately qualified before starting the usage. Normally, the important phases of qualification are installation qualification, operational qualification, performance qualification, etc. However, please note that though the qualification of equipment is an important part of validation, but by only qualifying the equipments, we cannot conclude that the process or systems are validated. And apart from the initial qualifications, the equipment shall be maintained properly. There shall be a preventive maintenance program which proactively ensures that the equipment is properly maintained, and a breakdown maintenance program in case of unexpected breakdowns. And the third element is materials. Raw material attributes play a major role in the final product characteristics. Hence, they shall be clearly defined, and material shall be sourced from approved or qualified vendors. Only then we can assure that the quality attributes are consistent and there is no change in the validated status. And the fourth element is measurements. Control of processes is achieved by measuring the required parameters at appropriate intervals during the process. It is very important that the measuring instruments are properly calibrated at periodic intervals. So when it comes to the measuring instruments, all those instruments shall be calibrated appropriately. And the fifth one is methods. This can include everything. The manufacturing methods, normally we call them as manufacturing process, and the testing methods, cleaning process, etc. And any method that is used in manufacturing and testing shall be validated. So all these methods or processes shall be validated. And the sixth one is mother nature. Also routinely we call it as the environment. The environment or area in which the manufacturing is done shall be adequately qualified or validated, including periodic requalifications. So when the products are manufactured in above conditions, we can be assured that they are of required quality and safety. And when all the individual aspects are properly maintained, only then we call it as a validated state. All these conditions together provide a validated state, and any change in these elements may require a revalidation of the process or systems. Hope this is clear here. So now let us see what is a validation master plan. Sometimes the validation master plan is also called as master validation plan, and definition as per PICS guidance is: a validation master plan is a document that summarizes the firm's overall philosophy, intentions and approach to be used for establishing performance adequacy. And definition as per WHO is a high-level document that summarizes the manufacturer's overall philosophy and approach to be used for establishing performance adequacy. It provides information on the manufacturer's qualification and validation work program and defines details of and timelines for the work to be performed, including a statement of the responsibilities of those implementing the plan. Both the definitions are almost similar and the definitions are self-explanatory, and we will also discuss in detail about these definitions in the latter phase. Simply stated, a VMP or a validation master plan shall detail about the company's approach towards validation and how a company plans to maintain the validated state. So now let's see the contents of a validation master plan. This gives us a clear picture of what exactly a validation master plan contains. These requirements are taken from WHO guidance mentioned earlier. Though each company has its own requirements, it is advisable to ensure that a minimum of these aspects are discussed in their VMPs. It shall start with a title page, then it shall have table of contents, abbreviations and glossary and all those things. Then actually the company has to define their own validation policy, how they are planning, what is their policy, what they are planning to achieve. All those things have to be mentioned in the kind of a policy, and the philosophy, intention and approach to validation has to be mentioned. Roles and responsibilities of relevant personnel. Typically there shall be a validation team. It shall be a cross-functional team consisting of personnel from different departments. Some companies do have a validation committee followed by a validation team, and resources to ensure that qualification and validation are done. And eighth one is outsourced services, selection, qualification and management through life cycle. As we discussed, the measuring instruments are to be calibrated. Normally in most of the companies, some of the activities are outsourced, like testing of samples or calibration activities. These are outsourced from other, they are given for outsourcing to other companies. So in the case of activities that are being outsourced, how the vendors are selected, how they are qualified and how they are managed shall be discussed. And scope of qualification and validation. The scope of qualification and validation may vary from company to company based on their requirements. The validation requirements are different for a non-sterile API to a validation requirements of a sterile API or an injectable finished dosage. The validation requirements for injectable facility are much higher than those are compared for a non-sterile API facility. So all those things, the scope of the actual requirement shall be discussed. And documentation required in qualification and validation, such as procedures, certificates, protocols and reports. It is to be remembered that validation master plan is a policy document. It shall be concise and clear. Validation master plan cannot provide all the inputs on how to carry out a validation, what shall be the course in case if there are deviation. All those will not be discussed in the validation master plan. So validation master plan shall also give reference to other documents such as SOPs, certificates or protocols and reports, etc. And premises qualification such as room verification where appropriate. As we have discussed, area in where the products are being manufactured also are a critical aspect. So to maintain the areas, what kind of qualifications are required and what is the periodicity, all those needs to be mentioned. Qualification of utilities. Any and all the utilities that have an impact on product quality shall be qualified. Utilities such as water, air, nitrogen, etc. Equipment and instrument qualifications. As we have covered in the machine section, all the equipments or instruments that are used in the manufacturing process and testing shall be appropriately qualified. Process validation. As we have seen in the method section, the processes used for manufacturing and cleaning shall be validated. Personal qualification such as analyst qualification, as we have seen in the first element, man. personnel who are involved in GMP operations shall be appropriately qualified. Analytical method validation, computerized system validation, all these validations, what is the philosophy of a company towards these processes shall be defined in the validation master plan. And of course, establishment of acceptance criteria. When a process or a method is considered validated, what is the acceptance criteria shall also be defined in the VMP. And how life cycle management, including retirement policy, requalification and revalidation. If there is a change in the validated state, then when shall the process or method shall be requalified or revalidated, the criteria also should be mentioned. And relationship with other quality management elements such as risk assessment and all those things should be mentioned. A validation matrix such as a table indicating the history and status of qualification and validation on site. Typically it can be available in the form of a schedule. We will discuss that. Retention of qualification and validation documentation. How much time, how much period shall the qualification and validation documentation shall be retained, shall be discussed. Deviation management. In case if there are any deviations observed during execution of validations, how it shall be addressed shall be defined here. And change control procedures, risk management principles, and training and references. So these are the typical contents of a validation master plan as mentioned by WHO guidance. It may vary from company to company, but it is suggested to have all these elements in the validation master plan. And let us see where to fit a validation master plan in the document hierarchy. Validation master plan is considered as an apex document in an organization, which means that it is one of the high level documents that provide a broad overview of company on where it stands on GMP terms, specifically on validation. There are some organizations who have prepared this document in the form of an SOP, but it is not advisable. VMP shall be a high-level document providing the path on what kinds of activities shall be carried out and at what frequency. It shall provide a brief overview on all aspects that help maintaining a validated state. Then, the second level, there shall be individual SOPs that provide more details on how to carry out those activities. For example, there shall be an SOP on how to carry out a process validation, how to carry out an analytical method validation or a cleaning validation, etc. SOPs define a practical approach to what is prescribed in the validation master plan. Following SOPs, there shall be individual protocols specific to one product or one activity. For example, VMP states that prospective process validation shall be carried out before any product is commercialized. And SOP on process validation provides details on how validation shall be carried out, how to handle deviations when the validation is considered successful, etc. Then a product specific protocol shall be prepared to define how the validation will be carried out, what is the acceptance criteria, etc. So SOP is common for any process that needs to be validated, but a protocol is specific to a process. And finally, a report is prepared to conclude on how the validation activity has taken place and whether the process can be considered valid or not. So the hierarchy goes this way. VMP provides a path or defines an approach. SOP elaborates on each specific aspect. A protocol specifies on how to proceed exactly, and finally a report is prepared documenting what happened in the whole process. Hope this is clear here. And now how to manage a VMP? First of all, keep the VMP updated. A periodic review also may be considered. And prepare the schedules for each aspect. These schedules may also be part of SOPs. Examples: preventive maintenance schedule, calibration schedules, area qualification schedules, etc. And one of the best control is to prepare rolling schedules. For example, if a particular activity has to occur once in 3 years or 5 years, then every year a rolling schedule shall be prepared covering the next 5 years. This will help us not to lose the track of activities. And an independent periodic review of executed schedules against a master schedule shall be performed. This will help in better control of activities planned. By ensuring that all the activities are being carried out as planned, we can assure that the systems are being maintained in a validated state. I hope this presentation is clear and you understood my views. These are the reference links that I have used in preparing this presentation. You can go through the same for more details. And thank you for watching the video. If you have any suggestions or you need any clarifications, please write to us at pharmathoughts1@gmail.com. Thank you and have a great day.